more people that may come in, straggle in a little bit, but we're just gonna go ahead and start in the interest of time. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lisa Haynes, and I want to thank you for taking time to come here and be here with us this evening. Your presence shows that you care. Not just about what's happening in Leander, but also about the future that we're building together. So we want to thank everyone for just showing up. Now let me be clear. I am not political. I am a community advocate. My goal is simply to create spaces where every voice can be heard, every question can be asked, and every concern can lead to meaningful action.
We can't see you, so do you want to go behind?
This is awkward.
I'm sorry. I just didn't want you to be like,
Okay, is that better?
it is better.
Like the voice of God.
Right. This town hall matters because leadership isn't a solo act. It's a conversation. It's about connection. Residents, business owners, parents, city leaders, all coming together to make sure decisions reflect the people they impact. When we gather like this, we remind ourselves that democracy starts right here, at home. These conversations are how we build stronger neighborhoods, foster trust, and move forward with intention. So tonight, let's listen, engage, and speak with purpose. Because when our community stands together, we don't just create change, we become it. Thank you for being here. Let's get started.
All right, now we'll transition into the candidates introducing themselves.
Okay, so I'm the timekeeper. We'll kick off in 2 minutes. When you have 1 minute, I'll take up the finger, 30 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That'll be it. Whenever you're ready.
Oh, we don't get a microphone?
Oh, yes you do, yeah.
Okay. So before you start my clock, I'm just here to speak for Anna Yelaun. I'm not going to stay up here. I'm going to make an opening statement before, then I'm going to join you in the audience. Right, Vice Mayor?
Please.
So my name is Mike Herrera. I currently sit on the Leander City Council Place 2. And I'm supporting Anna Yelaun for Place 3 because I have found over the last 2 years that she is a servant. She works for the city. One of the things that she's at today is she is at an educational conference, and she is the Texas president or Texas director of Kangaroo Math Kangaroo. And they basically promote math for down to kindergarten up to high school. They run competitions, they educate the kids, they teach them how to do that. That's what she's doing this weekend. Last weekend, she was working on Spirits of Baghdad in her role with historical preservation. And the weekend before that, she was working on Oktoberfest, which she helped lead with Leander Park's Arts and Culture Commission. And so while she's running this campaign, she's been doing all this stuff, setting up vendors and doing all these things. And last year, I was supposed to lead Art Fest, but I decided to run for office, and she took it over, and she did a great job on it. And so she is working very hard for the city, even while she's running for election. Even though she lost in place 6 running against people that I was running with, she was supporting me. And I cannot tell you how much that means that when a competitor supports you when you're not supporting them. She has a lot of plans, a lot of vision. She's a very smart woman. She has a doctorate in finance and a master's in geophysics. And she is very smart. She is diligent, she works hard, and she will work for the city. What you'll learn from city council people is that you get in what they put, you get out of them what they put in. You can put in as little as you want, or you can put in as much as you want. And I can tell you, she will work for the city, she will work hard, and she'll be a great advocate for the city. So I just ask that you vote for her, consider voting for her, and look at the things she's put out there. Thank you.
I'll go next. My name is Mohan Marchetty, and I'm running for Leander City Council Place 3 because I believe Leander deserves transparent leadership, balanced growth, and a council member who serves. So a little bit about me. I'm born in southern part of India. All my education was in India, and I came to the United States in early 2000s with 2 things: hope and a couple of bags with clothes. And and I'm incredibly thankful for the opportunities I had in every sphere of my life. And today, I'm a director of technology with a Fortune 3 company with over 22 years of executive leadership experience leading multi-million-dollar initiatives impacting multi-million American lives. Second, I'm also a successful business owner, and I'm also on the boards for Leander Educational Excellence Foundation as well as the Cedar Park Public Library Foundation, and community service is my biggest thing. My priorities are smart growth, public safety, and thriving economy, and I'm humbled to say I'm endorsed on each of those 3 priorities. I promise to lead Leander like how I made a choice a few years back, becoming a United States citizen by choice, not by chance. So I promise, and you all know what promise means. I promise to lead Leander the same way with choice and conviction. Thank you, everyone.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Natomi Blair, and I'm running for Leander City Council Place 3. I want to first of all thank you all for inviting us to be able to access the community and share our voice and our vision for the city. I'm a native Texan, raised by a father who served in our armed forces and a mother who served 15 years in public education. They both work currently in ministry and have reared our family in the root and the heart of servant leadership and
Sorry, I may have to switch up.
serving the community on a daily basis. And so that is where I reared my family. And when we relocated to Leander about 5 years ago, that was the heart of what we do. So we hit the ground running, supporting our local school and being engaged in the communities that impact us the most. The reason that I'm running is simply put because I believe that we need to ensure that the heart of Leander is thriving and growing in the right direction. And we need to do that by making sure that our citizens have water both now and in the future, making sure that we're building regional alliances and relationships across governing bodies to ensure that our infrastructure is a key priority to what we're doing as we're growing. And most importantly, that we are building bridges of communication with our citizens. It's really key that we have a leader that not only has the integrity, has the professional and personal experience in leading and governing, but also has the heart of Leander at the top of the priority and agenda. So I thank you and I ask you for your support.
All right, now that we've heard from our candidates, I'll introduce myself. I am your friendly moderator, Heleynn Nelson. Good to see everyone, and thank you to this beautiful bakery. Hi, Liz. Everyone, eat up, support this local business for sure. And then if you're watching online later on, please give this bakery a visit. As I mentioned, my name is Heleynn Nelson. I'm moderating this afternoon. Quickly about me, it's super not about me, but I am a Leander resident. I lived here with my husband and my 2 daughters. I have a high schooler and a middle schooler. Shout out to all the partners and spouses in the audience. My husband is an elected official for School Board Place 3, and so I feel you. Without any words spoken, I hear you. Okay. I moved to Austin with my family about 10 years ago. I've been at Google for 10 years. That's what I do for a living. And then my husband and I also own a water, fire, and mold remediation and restoration company. So shout out to small businesses and LABA. Yay. And great segue. Come on in. Great segue. A little bit more about LABA and the beautiful host that we have this afternoon. The Leander Area Black Business Alliance, or LABA, is a private group of volunteers dedicated to supporting professionals, business owners, and entrepreneurs alike with resources and opportunities for development and growth. The LABA is excited to be hosting their second candidates town hall this afternoon. Yay. We wanted to do this event because we know how important these elections are. Every election is, right? We encourage everyone to put our biases aside today and listen to what the candidates have to say. We hope that you hear something that helps you decide who you're voting for. As a reminder, early voting is now. It ends October 29th. Election day is Tuesday, November 4th. Check online to see what times and polling locations are available to you in your county. We're also recording tonight's event, which is published, or which will be published on LABA's YouTube channel. The camera is right here in front of us, so shout out to everyone watching. If you're watching the recording, we welcome you as well. This is a candidates forum. This is not a debate. I'll say that again. This is a candidates town hall or forum. It's not a debate. We have provided the candidates with the structure and rules well in advance, and the way this is going to work is during the first round, each candidate will be asked one randomly selected question submitted by a member of LABA. Come on in, welcome. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer their question. We ask the candidates not to speak over their time limit or out of turn and to remain cordial throughout the duration of this afternoon's event. We'll have a short intermission, and then we'll take questions from the audience. You'll have an opportunity, audience, so start percolating on those questions. There should be some index cards that are going around to collect those questions after intermission. I'll then ask those questions in consideration and select up to 5 audience members' questions to answer, or rather to ask, our candidates. There'll also be a 2-minute time limit for those responses. And for our last round, we'll have additional questions from LABA members, and each candidate will have one randomly selected question to answer with a 2-minute time limit. Definitely a 2-minute theme here. Candidates, your time will begin once I finish reading your question, and we have a timekeeper who's already introduced herself, and she's so effective already in the front row, who will notify the candidates, or continue to notify the candidates when they reach their 90-second mark and when their 2 minutes are up. Audience, we ask that you hold your responses or any reactions until at the end of the event, when you'll have the opportunity to meet the candidates and ask them questions yourselves. Okay, without further ado, let's get started.
I have an ado.
You do have an ado. Let's do it then.
I'm just gonna scoot you guys back a little bit.
Okay.
Sure.
So when you stand up, you're not so close to the camera.
Okay. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay.
Also, early voting ends on Halloween, October 31st.
October 31st. Okay, correction.
And Miss Liz, can you come and give a quick shout out to your business for everybody while we have?
And I want to add something about her business.
Oh,
if
yes.
it's okay. So, yeah, I'll let you speak and then I'll add something.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I just want to thank you all for coming out and even for Lisa to ask me to be a part of this. We do a lot of community-driven events here, and we are very community-focused. So we do enjoy all of the things, community. Just it's one of those things. We've been here for 3 years. Prior to opening the bakery, I was baking for 10 years from my home. It's a full family-run business. My husband and myself and our kids. We are a military veteran family here, and we're just proud to be here and to be a staple in the community. So tell your friends about us. Keep stopping by now that you know that we're here. I know some of you were like, we didn't even know you were here. Now that you know. And yeah, we're looking forward to servicing you guys and servicing the city of Leander. We've been here for 11 years, and this is home. So thank y'all.
Thank you. And this can be on camera or can be taken off. Okay, so here is something that I wanted to say. So I was a franchisee of Holston Creamery, and I did run that restaurant hands-on, where I mopped the floors, I decorated cakes and everything. But about this business, what I wanted to say, when I walked in, the first thing that I was looking at is the display. And when I looked at the cupcake and then the icing on top of the cupcake, I can tell the passion, the perfection, and the patience of the individual, which in this case is you, by looking at it, I could tell it. Like, and as a person who has done it in the past, like I could immediately recognize. So kudos to you and anything and everything to encourage small businesses. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. We will get started with the first question. All right, candidates. What changes, if any, would you support on council to improve public transportation in the city? And Natomi, we'll direct that to you first.
So I would like to answer it this way. Okay? The first thing is Leander is growing. We all know that the population has grown from where it was to where it is now. And with the growth of transportation, the needs also change every day. What it was 2-3 years back to now, the needs change. Whether it could be public transportation, whether it could be a cab metro type of a thing, whether it could be like paths where the bicycles could be used for moving from one place to another. So one thing I would say is like start thinking about the projects which are currently in flight, prioritize the ones so that we connect our trails, we connect our places where people can go from one community to another community safely. The second thing that I would say is like look at the means of transportation we have available. I'm not getting into the other side of it of cab metro, but I would say this. What are the right things to do that benefit Leander, and how do we do it with the dollars we have is what is important to think about it. Third, regionally, like how do we collaborate and then like see Leander compared to the other cities, how do we collaborate with them and make sure the transportation is sustainable, scalable, and helping every family who wants to make use of it. That's how I would say it. Thank you.
So we know that with the growing population, transportation is always a key issue, particularly since we have very limited thoroughfares to some main highways from our city. One, the Capital Metro contract is a voter-decided contract that we will be with for the duration of 5 years. And then we'll be back on renewal on the ballot for citizens. So I think that in terms of where we go collectively with that contract, that would be up to the citizens. And my take would be that we do more about voter education around objectively where we need to go and where citizens feel we need to go. If we look at the population here, there are a lot of families. So most of the people are from the ages of about 30 to 60 years of age. There's tons of families here, and they want a diverse way of mode of transportation. I think the second piece is that we build regional relationships. So essentially, I've had some conversations with neighboring city council members that kind of work with some of these projects, and they all agree that as we have growing population, and since we are neighboring cities, that it's important for us to collectively look at ways by which we can partner across the region so that we grow collectively together. And so I would look at ways by which we would build those relationships, whether it's with CTMRMA, Tech Stop, Williamson County, wherever it needs to, wherever boards or commissions we need to sit on to really just galvanize Leander as a priority in terms of those decisions that are made regionally. I think my time is up.
Yes.
Thanks, Natomi. We're going to take a quick pause for some coffee.
You really are supporting local business.
Right. Literally, as it's happening.
That's it.
Okay.
The rest is real quick.
Okay, all right, I'm moving on. Okay. Next question, candidates. What is your vision for Leander's economic development over the next 10 years? And how will you ensure it both benefits residents and local businesses?
So anytime,
Thank you.
okay, anytime we are looking at 10 years, right? So I would approach it with 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. So that's the way I would approach it. Now, when it comes to the Leander, like how we want to put it on the map, or like if I have to pin the economic economic development for Leander. I want Leander not just a place where we wake up and go to the places of work elsewhere, but I want people in Leander, the families in Leander, to thrive by the businesses of all sizes. So the next few years, up to 10, I want this place to be anchoring businesses of all sizes, whether small, medium, or large. I want people to recognize Leander as a place to live, work, as well as raise their families. Now, I also want to bring something, I would champion for some things like Nebraska Furniture Mart or the largest empires like the Dell in the area regionally have some employers like that come here so that we drive traffic, foot traffic, as well as the dollars locally for the small businesses, office lunches, or anything that we can think about. Now, the third thing I would also talk about from an economic development perspective is periodically take inputs from the committee and then try to see the merits, evaluate, and then make sure the policies that are set help the businesses and families, everyone thrive. That's how I would leave it with. Thank you.
So when I've had conversations with business owners around how can we help spur more economic growth within the community, two things come to mind, and I think one is really key and is probably what we can uphold as council members, and that is creating efficiencies in the process so that it's easy to do business in the city of Leander. So if you look at small businesses as well as large businesses, they say, the market is right, everything's growing, have the right target audience to be marketable to, but it's just really complex to get through the process, which costs dollars and money for people and also time. And so I think that one piece, that is something that City Council can take up, and that is creating policies that help support our local businesses and also be promotable, which I think Council has been encouraged to do over the last year. You see more communication and efforts in getting local businesses engaged and getting the population to know about local businesses. And then I think the second piece is really looking at ways by which we can have some true relationships and bring large employers here. So the other piece is how do you create a cyclic economy? And a lot of that has to do with having more large businesses that are here that have higher employee bases that can help cycle our tax base and make sure that there's an overflow for a lot of the wonderful boutique bakeries now to thrive, so that in a year when someone opens their business, they're not looking at closing it, that we are all helping to kind of build this economy and invest in this economy. Currently, one of our largest employers is Leander Independent School District. Outside of that, Leander really hasn't had too much attraction to that. So I think from a business perspective, that's where I can help support some efforts.
All right. What is your position on using bond funding for infrastructure projects versus a pay-as-you-go approach?
Okay. The first thing I would say is any kind of infrastructure that is being planned or implemented should be well thought about. It is not a check mark. It is not something we want to have it unintentionally. We want infrastructure first and then followed with the development that we want, so that it's not a burden on anyone, whether you talk about property tax, whether you talk about anything else. Now, bonds, as well as like if you're talking about periodically having the residents pay, like I would say, everything has got its merits, right? Like the first thing I would say is like evaluate the merit, like of what we are talking about. Anything that comes to the council or anything that comes at the table, first evaluate the merits. Is it how it benefits the residents of Leander? That is the first priority. Once we're listening to those merits of as to how it would help the Leander residents first, that's when, like I would say, take the decision one way or the other. Each of the choices has got its own merits, its own advantages and disadvantages. But I would first see the cost for which it is ask for, prioritize what dollars we have, what budget we have, what is the tax base we have, and then make a call. So there is nothing right or wrong with either, but evaluate based on the merits.
So I think that when we're looking at pay-as-you-go versus bond requires a vote typically. And so to ensure that we're making the right decisions on council as it relates to infrastructure, first we kind of have to understand the numbers. We have to have a clear understanding of the current budget, which I think it's around $311 million that was just recently passed for the fiscal year. We have to see kind of where the allocation is. Currently, we have pretty much 3 to 4 big buckets that a lot of our budget goes towards. I think there needs to be a little bit more voter education around how our sales tax is split. And then there can be an understanding of what is the priority of the particular infrastructure project. For example, I did sit in the BCRUA commission meeting this past week, and we have a bond that's going to be going up for the vote of the city council in the upcoming council meeting that's related to expanding our water infrastructure. It's vitally important. We're actually behind the cuff on that particular project. So I would say in that instance, it is, it would be to our benefit that we do not delay a project of that sort by taking on a bond or a loan for those particular projects. But I think it is all about, one, assessing the data and the numbers, and then also looking at the key priority of the particular projects to make that decision.
All right. How do you define transparency and accountability in local government, and how will you demonstrate both if elected?
Access to information is the biggest thing, right? All of us, like when we talk about business, when we talk about being a community resident, being about Leander residents, access to the right information at the right time. So that is the biggest core thing. Like whatever information is available has to be transparent. Like whether you're talking a dashboard, whether you're talking about a city website, a portal, that has to be accessible. The second thing is consistently and periodically, like having that information shared with the public so that they can see what is happening, whether it is the tax dollars, whether it is the water usage or any other matter. So that is how I would treat with the first thing, like right time, being it transparent so that everyone make an informed decision and being informed about where things are. Now, all of this, like the integrity also matters. So with everything that we are doing, like we are doing, like any business, anything that we do with dollars, with whatever we are seeing, integrity matters. So when things are not shared periodically, when things are unintentionally not put forward, it also brings up certain questions. So that should also be avoided. So that's how I would leave that.
So one of the tenets that I kind of talked about in my introduction, and is one of the things that I'm running on, is championing community engagement. I think it's vitally necessary as I go door to door and talk to citizens of the city that we look at ways by which we can connect them to just vital information so that they can make educated decisions. They're not asking to be persuaded one way or the other. They're just trying to get some proactive engagement and communication about what the city is doing, when I should expect my road to be closed so I can plan to go in a different direction ahead of time. And oftentimes, I have seen the engagement that the city has been trying to do in terms of putting things on social media communications. But I will say this, and this is no shade to the people sitting on the dais now, I'll ask someone at the door, do you know about the Leander limelight? And they'll be like, well, what is that? And I'm like, that's my point. We need to have different modes of communication so that people objectively get information. And then I think transparency comes from the integrity of the person. And I want to stand on my integrity to ensure that you can always call and reach out to me. I will, I saw recently Councilman Mike is setting up a coffee for folks. I think that's really important for us to find different ways by which we can connect to people, but it is also my job to go reach out to business owners and collect that information about, are we having a pulse to what we're doing, as well as even, considering a citizen's committee where we're just keeping our pulse to the ground as council members, because there's so much that comes across the dais.
You all are doing a fantastic job. So just exhale, you're doing great. All right. Okay. What does One Leander mean to you, and how will you bring that vision to life through your service on council?
So One Leander, right, that is the dream, that is how we expect the reality to be. The first thing that I would start with is, as I said previously, access to information at the right time. Access to capital for the businesses, right? And then the third thing is doing it, not just thinking about the 1, 2, 3 years, but thinking as a roadmap as to where we want to be as a city, where everyone thrives, where we are all safe. So mapping back to my priorities, the first one is smart and balanced growth. We want to be intentional with the growth that we plan, and then when we are planning it, it has to be an example regionally. The second thing is about public safety. When we are doing business, we want safety. We want like people to come in feeling secure. We want to be at our homes sleeping and waking up because we want safety. The third thing is about thriving economy. So when I say thriving economy, we want businesses of all sizes, small businesses, medium businesses, large businesses succeed. And when I also want to further go up and say, or further say that when I'm talking about access to information, access to capital, there are some great ideas as to how we can, as a community, come together and then make it possible to be One Leander, where we thrive, as well as where we want to live, raise, and bring people into Leander every day. Thank you.
So what One Leander means to myself is that this is the heart of who we are for everyone here. So whether you are, a young professional and you're just starting in your career life, or you are a thriving family of 5 and you came here because you love the school district and you wanted to build community for your family, or you're starting up your business, or you've been here 20 years and you've seen generations grow. One Leander means that we as elected leaders are maintaining the heart of who we are, continuing with that brand agency, and making sure that we're investing in those priorities. And the biggest thing, or the biggest way that we can do that as elected leaders is by first listening. One of the things I've said is, I've knocked several doors. I probably lost a little weight along this campaign. But I've done that because I want to take the time to not just create a platform, but to listen to everyone and say, we've grown a lot. So what is the heart of who we are? Where do we need to focus? Why do you stay here? Why do you want to bring your family here? And that is the heart of being One Leander, is that we're investing in those things so that as we grow, we're shaping what the future looks like, and it always reflects back to us.
The Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority, or BCRUA, is a key partner in Leander's water supply. What projects are currently underway at BCRUA, and how do you plan to address concerns about cost, capacity, and transparency for residents?
So we all know water is a key thing for all of us, right? We want reliable water supply. And then obviously we can't, we have limited sources of water where water is, which is accessible to all of us within Leander. There is a regional effort that our current council members are working regionally with Cedar Park and Round Rock to make sure we do have sustainable water supply for 2 things. One, making sure there is an extra capacity per day that is available for us. Also making sure that there is a treatment facility to make sure that the water is treated and made available. So currently we are about roughly expecting about close to between 24 to 27 million gallons per day like once that effort is completed. The current timelines, while the timelines are not fully published, the interim timeline or the first phase timeline that I could see based on public information is 2027. So that's the nearest timeline that I see. Obviously, there are much more efforts that are happening, great initiative, which will have a future dated thing. The closest one is 2027. We want it to be reliable, water first. The second thing, obviously with these efforts, we want to maintain is resilience. We want our pipelines to be modernized or kind of resilient to any damage. So that's where I will leave it. I think there's a time bomb, but I'm happy to answer further on this. Thank you.
So let me first start by saying that 3 people that sit on the BCRUA board have endorsed me in this campaign. And so when I did sit in the meeting last week, I did learn that the expansion project, as I stated before, is about $314. I believe it's $314,000. And the expansion project is going to be a 52, about 53% split for us on a bond. That will be an expansion, and then we will look at future progress on that particular project. The expansion will go from around 22 as stated to about, I think it's 66 million gallons. So it is a clear, defined, long-term plan that will be a plausible investment for us. But going back to what I was saying earlier in terms of our regional support, it is really key that we have a great relationship on that seated board as council members, because it does impact the efficiency by which we can grow long-term as it relates to water.
Okay. Property taxes remain a top concern for homeowners. What specific policies would you support to keep Leander's tax rate stable or lower without cutting essential services?
Okay, how many of you are business owners here? If you can just take a minute to raise your hands. Okay. We all know as business owners, the topmost thing that comes to my mind is, we know we can only do a little much to cut costs, but the first thing that we can do, or anything that we can do, is increase our revenue, right? We can market, we can do whatever to increase our revenues, but we can do only so much for cutting our costs or keeping our costs limited. So the answer to your question, the way I would answer it is, increase your tax base. Broaden your tax base by bringing in employers, by bringing in new businesses, by bringing in other sources where it does not burden the homeowners. That's how the first key thing is. So think about broadening that. The next thing I would say is, when you have like certain initiatives, evaluate the merits of what is needed now, what is needed for future, and then balance your dollars based on that priority. The third thing I would say is, keep everything local as much as we can. So the growth we are talking about, if you recall, I said intentional. Everybody thought about like why Cedar Park developed very close to Leander near Costco. So because it's the convenience, people go Cedar Park. But when we plan growth for Leander in the next few days, plan it intentionally so that we drive local traffic, local businesses. So that's where smart growth comes into the picture. So these are the 3 variants in a time-bound situation that I would explain to keep tax dollars minimal to homeowners. We do not want to increase tax dollars for the homeowners. We want to increase our tax base by bringing in new businesses, new people who can run large establishments and pay for the taxes. Thank you.
So I think that this is a very critical question a lot of people have brought up, particularly since as we look at the economy, it's changed drastically for people's individual homes. And so I think it's not a matter necessarily of increase or decrease taxes, but it's about utilizing your tax dollars efficiently. And so what I propose is that, I don't make promises that I can't keep, especially as it relates to some of the needs that we might have as a city, but it's about voter education, so citizen education around how our taxes are split up or divvied up. It's about ensuring that we're creating efficiencies in process. So where can we look at ensuring that we're utilizing services, supports, or we're getting in grant funding so that we're efficiently utilizing taxpayer dollars, and then seeing where we need to go from there. I know that there was a 9%, I believe, tax increase in this last budget, but if anyone reviewed the budget, a lot of those tax dollars went to our Leander Fire and Police, who have a 5-year strategic plan that really was kind of behind the cuff. And so I think it's not a matter of, keeping them a certain way, but making sure that our citizens know that we're using their taxpayer dollars efficiently, and then making the decision from there where we need to go in terms of increasing or staying status quo.
All right, and with that, we will go into our intermission. So every candidate's audience stretch, buy pastries, coffee, and we'll be right back.
Started. Part deuce.
No?
Go ahead, I just have one more round.
You're good.
Oh,
Yeah.
one more.
What are you brewing?
Sweet Italian cream latte. Like stare for a minute.
Oh, okay, let me. You are so good. Okay.
Don't get fired from your free job.
On your day off. Free job. Oh my goodness. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the break. That was a slip, intentional, the bake. I know that was a good one, right? All right. So we do have 2 audience questions, so we'll open up with those. And then just by way of reminder, then we'll move into our LABA questions. All right, audience question number 1. If you could open up any business in Leander, what would it be?
While there are many favorites, one of my top favorite is a restaurant. When I say that, I don't want someone to be worried about parking when I'm going to that restaurant. But I'm talking about as a mother, I don't want to be worried about where my kids are playing. Because growing up, safety was one thing where kids could play on the streets and we were like happy. But the scenario is different now. So I want that place to be safe for the kids, and then mothers or the parents are not worried about the kids. Kids have a play area, kids have like an open air theater, whatever it is, but an area where they are engaged. The working people or people who have put in their hard time all through the week, unwind, take that evening, relax, and then speak their heart. And this restaurant should be a community, it should preserve community character, and also give a space where everyone unwinds, everyone comes together, feel like a family, feel like a community. Encourage access to that place, whether you're talking about like a walking pathway, whether you're talking about a connectivity with the public transportation, whether you're talking about any means of connectivity. Make it a place, a centralized location, where it is not just one family, every Leander family enjoys and loves it. That's how I would say it as my top priority. Thank you.
was like, before I answer this question, do I need to give anybody a cut of the business idea? So I think that some ideas that on a really just practical side that we need is there are a lot of families here and we need playscapes. So I know that we do have an activity center, but a lot of folks, we go outside of the city limits for like activities. And I'm talking about, I have an 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old. So when they were a little younger, we did indoor playscapes, we did indoor, those ball pits that I'm always afraid that they're gonna get lost in. But the kids love them, and unfortunately, they're like right outside of city limits. So we always have to go little ways out to go to that. So I think that will be kind of first business. And also something like an arcade. I noticed that a lot of adolescents don't have really places to go and hang out. We're too far away from like malls. They don't have transport. In fact, I think in another forum, we talked about e-bikes and how the kids are running around with e-bikes and what we can do with that. And I think it's just simply, a lot of what I see, at least in my neighborhood, is things around having activities for them to do that don't require a lot of money, but to give them an activity to do in their spare time. So I think those are probably two of the fun businesses. And then the adult businesses, I would love to really bring something in the tech space to our area.
Thank you. Okay, so we have another audience member question, and this is directed to Mohan. According to your own statements, neither you nor your company, Fruition Development, currently owns property within the city limits of Leander. However, there is visible signage indicating that your company is involved in a development located just outside the city within the Leander's extraterritorial jurisdiction, or ETJ. If you have a financial stake in property or development located in or near those potential incorporated zones, how can residents be confident that city decisions such as zoning changes, utility expansion, or annexing priorities will be made in the public's interest rather than in ways that might benefit private holdings?
Great question. Someone who has asked it, thank you for asking, because it speaks the mind and it helps clarify to the people listening. So as I introduce myself, I work for a Fortune 3 company where day in, day out, I work several acquisitions. There are stocks of companies. We acquire companies where I have insider information, but there is something called as a conflict of interest. That is also called as non-disclosure. We all know those terms, right? It is a big thing. So I'm talking about a scale of multinational company, a Fortune 3 company. So obviously, I have those information, but again, I have those non-disclosures as well as the conflict of interest. Now coming to the development question. So it is very important, think about this, think about the merit. Understanding the survey, understanding the easement, understanding how to negotiate certain things in an easement is a very big thing for the city. Now, I do not have any property in Leander. When I filed my candidacy, I have only one primary residence with mortgage in Leander. It is disclosed. Now, there is another property close by, which is Cedar Park, which is roughly 3 miles. It is all permitted by City of Cedar Park. There is one other property, which is City of Jonestown, okay? So, which is not in Leander, which is not in ETJ of Leander. But here is what I would tell to the public. Anytime there is a conflict of interest or anything that comes up, I'll recuse myself. I'll be staying away from the decision so that other elected officials can make a choice whether to support it, whether to approve it or not, in the interest of Leander. Not for anyone, no special interest. I do not have any interest. I do have properties across the United States, not just in and across Leander. So my interest is to serve Leander, not any other interest. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will transition into just our general questions. Thank you, audience, for your questions. All right, let me rephrase. How have you engaged with the Black community in Leander over the past year, and what outcomes came from that engagement?
Okay, So here are two ways I would answer. If I can date back more than 1 year, right? If it's okay. So I did have several employees from different ethnicities, African American, people of different countries as well, who co-worked along with me. I was rolling my sleeves, mopping floors, decorating cakes, running business at the counters, serving the customers. So it is dating back for 2018. So that's my engagement. It's about diversity and inclusion. That's a big thing in the corporate side of it, as well as the business. That's my true thing. Inclusion and diversity, it should be encouraged. The second aspect of it is whether or not we are talking about a black owned, whether or not we are talking about a veteran, whether or not we are talking about a family owned business. Every business is unique and we need that diverse mix so that we are resilient in the economy. Everyone brings a merit, everyone brings a skill, everyone has a talent. That should be encouraged. That's my commitment. So inclusion and diversity in everything that I do, and experience that working with the African American or the black owned businesses or students. I do even mentor students on business and value of money today as a volunteer. I want to teach value of money for kids who are younger so that growing up they know it. That's another thing I would like to give as an example. The second one. Thank you.
So as the black family in Leander, of course, there are various organizations that I support. One, I'm the chairwoman of one of the oldest nonprofit organizations in the city of Austin that supports media communications to communities that are underserved. And so I've been on that board for about 5 years, as well as I've also been a volunteer for 10 years at that organization. I've also am a supporter of LABA, so that is one organization here in the city of Leander, as well as a supporter of businesses. So I do shop at Leander Beauty Supply. Thank you so much for how long I've heard you. That's a little bit of marketing play, but also just even in this, I also, it's not a good business in Leander, but there's a Black business owner who did some work for my campaign this time around. So that is at the formal level, but then in the informal level, whenever I see people that are part of the communities that I'm a part of, I always encourage them to be supportive. So be in leadership. I've encouraged a lot of mamas to be a part of our PTA and lead our PTA. Those are just some small things that we can do to encourage our communities to be connected.
All right. Keeping along with the diversity and inclusion themes, have you worked with other underrepresented groups in Leander? If so, when? And in what ways have you supported or partnered with them?
Okay, so one of the examples that I want to take, like expanding on the previous thing, right? I still remember my employee names who I worked with in 2018. So Keisha, Mariam Boyd, those names are some names that I do remember still, and you can check it on my phone. Now, speaking about other ethnicity groups, right? So whether or not, forget about anything. I treat every human the same way. Every human brings in merits, every human brings in skills that are important. So we all know that on this planet Earth, we are all one. We are created for a purpose. And the example that I would like to take it is at work, we do have several colleagues where they are from several countries, several places which different geographic locations. They are on the team, I work with them day in, day out in the meetings. The second example is mentoring people who are minority-owned businesses. Hmong, if I might be mispronouncing or slightly pronouncing different way, but I would like to take example of those where during COVID, post-COVID, I took the initiative of explaining them how SBA works. How do you apply for an EIDL? How do you go and ask for a grant? How do you write a business case for the minority people? Because access to capital is important for any small business. So I did take those initiatives to write business cases to tell this is where you can apply, this is how a grant is applied. So whether 5,000, 10,000, whatever that grant is. The other thing is, the employees that I referred to, I also have written recommendation letters for their colleges. So this is a 360 degree of my involvement with whether you call it minority-owned businesses or candidates or teenagers. Thank you.
So I would say my involvement with other organizations has to do with kind of like an overarching organization. I have been a part of the DWIT committee for over 2 years that supports our school district. And in that committee, we really look at ways by which we can support all of the students in all of groups and orientation to ensure that we make sure that the school district is doing the necessary things and getting feedback from us as, parents, business owners, teachers that are part of that committee. So I think my focus has been more so on those overarching groups. As I stated before, I serve as the chairwoman of a 40-plus-year-old organization, and so that is outside of the scope of this particular city, but we do impact hundreds of listeners across the greater Austin area, and so it's really key and important for me to build relationships across the board. I think during the course of this campaign, I have built several relationships with various communities who've reached out to me directly to just share how they want to continue to be connected as a part of One Leander. And so I think that while it might not necessarily be a community that I'm directly connected to, it's vitally important that I'm aware as a leader and that I'm invested in ensuring that those voices are heard as well.
What is your stance on racism in our community, and what actions would you specifically take to address it and foster accountability?
As I was calling it, inclusion and diversity is the most important thing in this society. Whether you're talking about a workplace, whether you're talking about a business, whether you're talking in the community, the first and foremost that I would say is God has given each of us certain strengths, certain weaknesses. God has given us the merits, God has given us a talent. Recognize every individual like how you want to be recognized. That's how I would say as the first thing. The second thing I would say is, think about how you can contribute to another individual than putting blame, putting kind of strain on someone. Try to see if you can't do anything, just it is okay. But if you can do something, do good to the other human. That itself creates a chain where we call ourselves a community, we call ourselves proud citizens of the United States. Coming from various ethnicities, live the value, show up as an individual, and then make sure we are all united and make Leander a place where we all think we all belong and we preserve the character of Leander. Thank you.
I can repeat the question. What is your stance on racism in our community, and what actions would you specifically take to address it and foster accountability?
Well, I think that, when we look at the subject of racism, and it is an age-old institutionalized issue that, our society has had to work through and combat. And so I believe that, the institution of racism lies within the heart of people and not necessarily always outside of that scope. And so plausibly, that is some of the experiences that we've had here. I know, my family's had certain experiences that maybe have correlated to a lot of that activity. And the way I see it is that there's no place for that here, because even as our demographics change, we have to collectively know that we're all part of one community. I think the bigger question is, when it comes to that subject matter, since it does correlate with individuals and their belief systems, is how do we ensure that there's safety in our community? And, in talking to Chief Minton and Assistant Chief Fletcher, and just being very transparent of, as we're changing and growing, what are ways by which we're ensuring that the community is safe. They have various measures that they're saying, hey, we're making sure we're proactively ensuring that people feel comfortable here, they feel like this is their home, because it is. And we don't want to change that in any way. And we shouldn't have people feel unsafe anyway because of the actions or the thoughts of one particular person. So I think that, like as I said, this is something that, we battle in our society, but I think as an elected official, the primary importance is that we making sure people feel included and safe in their communities.
All right, we're in the home stretch, so 3 more questions. Doing well. What is your plan to attract and retain locally owned and diverse businesses that reflect Leander's growing population?
So, in order to retain anyone, right, we need right environment. First, create an environment in Leander, like strive to create an environment in Leander where everyone feels that there is a place that they belong to. The second thing I would say is grow or empower the next generation. So think about the college students, think about your high schoolers. Empower them to volunteer, empower them to train in partnership with city, partnership with the businesses, partnership with the chamber to see how we can increase their participation and empower their knowledge, or increase their knowledge and their participation within the community. So that's another way of looking at increasing the skills. So also think about creating ways where we create growth, where people come into the Leander to work, come into the Leander to kind of do the next best thing. So that's how I would see the 3-part ways. 1, making sure you create a right environment. 2nd, prepare your next generation for Leander by partnering with the chamber, partnering with the city, partnering with the community leaders. The 3rd thing is develop locally. That's how I would say it.
How I see it when it comes to our small businesses is 1, we're number 8 places to live in the nation, so we don't have a problem with attraction. But what we do have, where we can be supportive is by which we help support our businesses, and we help with them with retention. So how do we keep the businesses open and thriving? And when I was talking to small business owners, just across the board, or when I'm out and about, a lot of them say, the process is very difficult and it costs me time and money. So I think there's ways where low-hanging fruit, we can look at policies and processes where we can create efficiencies, which also saves us taxpayer dollars. But then also we can strive to ensure that there is communal support for our small businesses. So, 1, engaging. So having, forums by which we invite small business owners to say, what can we do better as a city? How can we support you to make sure that you have longevity and growth in your business? Where can we support you in terms of fees, so that you're not overcome by just the overhead of keeping a business in the city since we're growing. And I think the second piece is, and I spoke about this a little earlier, a part of that is making our economy cyclic. And so kind of building some of the negotiations with some larger businesses to ensure that that big business is having all of their folks eating at local diners and they're shopping at local shops. That keeps the economy cyclic, and that's a way by which we can continue to help the economy grow and thrive.
Great. Do you support targeted incentives for small or minority-owned businesses? If so, what types of programs or policies would you prioritize?
Obviously, we don't like any targeted incentives, whether it is to a minority, whether it is to anyone. The first and foremost thing is public safety. Public safety comes top of the mind. As the population grows, we need our first responders who are properly staffed, properly equipped with the latest technology so that they can help protect us. So the first and foremost thing that I would think about targeted attacks to prevent them is to make sure our public safety pillar is strong by supporting our first responders with police and fire and EMS. The second thing that I would say is get the positivity in people's mind. So what I mean by that is, don't have any assumptions, don't have like any kind of news spread. We should have proper means of anything being communicated. We want to be well informed of what is happening. We want to make sure we all spread positivity in the community. If anything is something that we see isolated, targeted and everything, the first and foremost responsibility, please do call the first responders. Do not talk about it more than you should. Let the first responders handle it and keep our community safe. And obviously, inclusion and diversity is where I would say the third bullet point. Make sure like we all understand we all belong here. And we are here for a reason. We call Leander home for a reason. And we want it to be thriving. We want it to be something that's a place for all of us. Thank you.
I will repeat the question. Do you support targeted incentives for small or minority-owned businesses? If so, what types of programs or policies would you prioritize?
So, I don't know about targeted programs, and if, I would support that, because ideally I would think that would mean if you hit a certain threshold, then there's some type of incentivizing around it. That is also kind of codependent on the market and how the market is doing, which I don't think is fair to small businesses. But what I will say is that we would need to look at some programs that we already have instituted, like the community program, where we're helping with small grants or loans for small businesses. We can also look at giving quote-unquote incentives by maybe even waiving or having lower fees that they have to pay for permitting. Things of that nature that can help them to, like I said, reduce overhead costs and help them to focus more on marketing and growing and thriving as a business. So I wouldn't necessarily say I'd be in support of a targeted program that is codependent on an economy that has influxes and also valleys, but more of which, how can we help them on the ground level so that they can pour all of their passion, money, and support into their passions.
I would have to add something to the question, as an answer to the question. As business owners, we feel that obviously we don't want any isolated things, like as we see Louis Vuitton store attacks and everything, right? We do not want that. So one of the solutions that we can offer from a city perspective or kind of go through decision making is about proper lighting to the businesses. Proper environment where there are like security cameras or like neighborhood watch that is there, so that the businesses also have the security and we avoid the targeted attacks. So just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Okay, I can add, if we're adding things, I can say also, another key thing that a lot of businesses say is that like our signage ordinance is really complex and it's not conducive to supporting marketing their business, which doesn't help them to thrive. And in my mind, as I'm not on the dais currently, so I don't know the numbers, but I think this would be a good opportunity for us to look at if we're having people put in multiple waivers for particular signage policies, maybe we create a better policy to help save taxpayer dollars in terms of those waivers, but also more importantly support our businesses who want to be more marketable and make sure that they're pulling the revenue that they foresee in our area.
All right, thank you. And for our final question, what will you do as a council member to ensure equitable access to city resources, programs, and opportunities?
So access to information, access to capital by partnering with the local community banks, credit unions, lines of credit. The third thing is that city or any government has got like several initiatives, and then obviously they go to the private for contracts. So talking about that, the contracts that we are talking about may not be a bite size for every business. think about if legally allowed, can that contract have macro elements where the small businesses can participate? That is one thing that I would say as an important thing. Allowing the participation for the small businesses in contracts or initiatives as allowed legally so that they can do that and they can participate. Also to empower, like what are some ways that we can come together as a community within Leander, set policies to see how can we empower the small businesses and the minority businesses to see can we reserve certain things for the small businesses and minorities. And obviously it goes through a decision making process if allowed. That is one of the way of doing it. So those are the 3 ways in the time-bound answer that I want to give.
Yes, I will repeat the question. What will you do as a council member to ensure equitable access to city resources, programs, and opportunities?
One thing equitable access means, one, communication, and then second, having a diverse way by which you're, or modes of getting that communication out. So I think this would be a great opportunity for us to partner with our Leander Chamber of Commerce. I'm a Leander Chamber of Commerce member, even though I do not have a business. And as a supporter, I would say there's plenty of opportunities to educate upcoming entrepreneurs and get access to that information so that when people are thinking about it and they're thinking about joining the business community, they are connected to the chamber, which is also a supporter of the city of Leander. I also know that we have an economic development committee that sits and supports our city officials. And this would be a great opportunity for them to build out newsletter and or even kind of create webinars by which people are saying, hey, you want to do business in the city of Leander? Here's some vital information about how to do that and how we can support you in doing that. So I think it's about not only communicating that directly, but finding different vehicles by which we can help support that communication and get the word out to folks so that they have access to the details and information they can be supported in their ventures.
Can I ask?
Sure.
One important point I wanted to say is, in addition to the policies and everything, how city can come together to empower would be planning the corridors in a certain way where certain businesses are intentionally planned. Think about a small business. We don't want cars to think about whether or not I can stop. I want a pedestrian access so that some small businesses which are not accessible can be empowered where there is a foot traffic coming. So create that environment as a city councilman where think about access to every business, pedestrian walks, trails, whatever it is, so that they can come in and then have the foot traffic for the businesses. Thank you.
Okay. All right. With that, we are going to thank our candidates for your wonderful time and attention and intention with your questions, and then invite Lisa, because it's your party, on up to close us out. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have much to say, just thank you for coming. If you have any other questions, you guys can meet and greet and mingle after this. And good night.